This podcast is brought to you by Craft Beer and Brewing Magazine for those that love to make and drink great beer. Learn more online or subscribe at beerandbrewing.com or find us on social media at Craft Beer Brew. Welcome to the Craft Beer and Brewing Podcast. I'm your host, co-founder, and editorial director of Craft Beer and Brewing Magazine, Jamie Bogner. I am in Memphis, Tennessee today. Super excited to be here. The occasion is my 25th college reunion. I went to Rhodes College here in Memphis, and so I'm back in town to celebrate that and see some old friends. And while I was here, I thought, you know what? I need to talk to some brewers. And the first person I contacted about that was Kelvin Kolheim of Beale Street Brewing. Welcome to the podcast, Kelvin.
Thanks, Jamie. I'm glad to be here.
So we first met, I guess it was 2020 in Richmond, Virginia, and you came out to the Brewery Accelerator event in Richmond, and we tried some of your beer, and I loved that. I hope that experience was useful for you. You are in an interesting place in this brewery development. You have a beer brand. You are releasing beer in the market. Right now, it's brewed at another brewing facility, but obviously you work on those recipes. You come out of that brewing history. We're going to talk about the way that you design beers. We're going to talk about the way that Beale Street connects craft beer with audiences that may not be typical craft beer consumers. I think there's a lot of fun there, and certainly I'm going to reflect on some of my history here in Memphis because it was such a pivotal place. For me, certainly turning 21 in this town and trying to seek out craft beer in 1995, 96. That was an interesting challenge.
Yes, sir.
Very interesting challenge. We're going to dive into that. But before we do that, like your flagship beer, you can rely on G&D chillers for the same quality and consistency. G&D guarantees that every chiller they build will hit 28 degrees without breaking a sweat. They never stop. They draft, they craft, they service each and every brewery, big or small, all in an effort to build one hell of a chiller. For nearly 30 years, G&D has been committed to cold. Reach out for a quote today at gdchillers.com. This episode is also brought to you by BSG Hop Solutions. Meet the latest in BSG Hop Solutions portfolio, Sativa. Strong expressions of stone fruit, floral, and resinous pine flavors and aromas define this blend, crafted specifically for use in hazy IPAs and other hop-forward beers. Sativa is ideal for aroma, whirlpool, and dry hop additions to hazy and juicy IPAs or any other hoppy styles where a combination of citrus, tropical fruit, and pine aromatics are desired. Go to bsgcraftbrewing.com to learn more or call 1-800-374-2739. It's funny, we're here in the South Main District of Memphis and only like a block and a half away from WEVL, the community radio station here in Memphis. Back in 1993, I started doing a community radio show playing ska music and indie rock on WEVL from midnight to 2 a.m. That at that point, music was music still is a passion for me. I didn't think that anything professionally in any kind of capacity would ever come out of doing community or college radio shows. And yet here I am hosting a podcast years and years and years into this. And so, it's funny how those things come full circle.
Oh, yeah. Shout out to Weevil.
I love it. Love it. It was such an amazing time. I came on, my show started after Don, who was an Elvis impersonator, just played 2 hours of Elvis music. And that was a show every week, 2 hours of Elvis music. Mm-hmm. And it was consistently the highest revenue driver for memberships for that radio station. Far and away. And it was, wasn't like Elvis was making new music at the time. It wasn't, it was just going into Elvis hits and deep cuts. And it was just such an amazing, quirky town. Mm-hmm. But that's what I love about Memphis. Like, this place is just its own place.
Oh, absolutely. We have a whole lot of soul and character. Yeah, it's definitely a unique place for sure.
Yeah. And it's almost this little island in the middle of the country where, because it's not on a lot of routes for other things, like it just kind of developed its own thing.
Yes, sir.
So tell me about your beer history. Tell me about your journey where it started, how you got, clued into craft beer and, how it clicked and then how you started developing, that brewing aptitude.
Sure. So I started, I'm cooking. I've been cooking with my mom since I was a kid, and I started taking culinary classes 8 years ago. I'm bad with dates, but maybe 8 years ago.
Yeah.
In the evenings after my job, I was the director of economic development for the Memphis Chamber. So I was going to culinary school at night, and my dad pulled out a menu that I made when I was a kid. It said Kelvin's Restaurant, words misspelled, but it had a menu 50 cents for green beans and stuff like that. And he gave it to me when I started going to culinary school. This was before I, decided I wanted to open a brewery, but that was just a passion I had of cooking and curiosity of flavors and learning more. So a friend of mine bought me a homebrew set, the Mr. Beer Kit 1 gallon set. So it sat there for a while, finally opened it, cracked it open, went to the beer store, and they're like, you're going to do the same amount of work, so you might as well get a larger system. So I immediately upgraded because I took the grains. I'm like, are these safe? Are these fresh? Well, if they don't smell, they should be okay. I'm like, let's go ahead and get some. So I cook. So let's go ahead and get some fresh grains, you know. So immediately upgraded and bought a bunch of stuff, jumped into it, got the beer bug. And from that day forward, started investing in brewing. So we jumped into a Zymatic just so I could track it, make it digital. It was on my phone, you know. Then progressed to, some SS Brew Tech equipment and realized, oh shucks, it's pretty fun. Let's and you can manipulate flavors just like cooking is pretty fun. Yeah.
So, is it the process of making that you just connected with that, that there was, or were there also specific beers that you were tasting that just sparked this creative idea for you?
So I tell you, in college, of course, you drank regular beers. I say regular
beers. I know what you're talking about. So I drank plenty of regular beer in college.
So so I started Red Stripe and Newcastle was kind of out there for me. Not a lot of people drank it. I always would seek flavors and try different beers. I'm a fan of trying beers. Enthusiast of coffees, wine, spirits. So it was always about flavor with me. I want to try the newest flavor. Just let me, I want to try it and dive into it. Even with food, when I go to a restaurant, if I have something I really enjoy, I'll go home and reverse it and cook it at home.
Yeah.
So it's always about mimicking what I like and trying to figure out what I like. So it's always diving in with flavors. And of course, I got into hops and just started ordering hops and just came up with a freezer full of hops. I'm like, these 1 pound bags of hops will go a long way, So, but I was always ordering the Sabro before even Sabro was
sure. Back when it was the big homebrew hop, right?
Yeah, Sabro, Strata, Galaxy. Of course, you can do all these hops on a small scale pretty easy. So, Vic Secret, just Azaka, El Dorado. So, it's just trying and, rubbing. I went out to Hop Harvest 2019 and that was a heck of an experience. It was huge. It was, it was a life change. Like, it was one of the best brew trips I ever had. But it's constantly trying stuff and seeking what you like and what you don't like. And that's how we craft recipes. And, of course, do the culinary side or the spirit side, of manipulating flavors and just trying things.
Yeah. Let's talk. I like that, kind of approach to creative process being, different people work in different ways. Some people envision a flavor and they build ingredients in order to achieve that flavor. And some people taste ingredients and are inspired by, what they are tasting and think about the way that they can recombine those or, adjust and build things from those that might take them to a place that they wouldn't have just envisioned separately. What's your creative process look like? It sounds like you're really ingredient inspired on that side.
So, yes, yes to both.
Yeah.
So, of course I like beer flavored beer, and, be able to taste the cleanness and the subtle notes of beers. And I also like to, I love coffees, but, I recently bought a pumpkin spice, almond, creamer, but sometimes you just want to try a little flavor, but I do like the nuances of drinking straight coffee.
Sure.
And different, taking the subtle notes and the peanut butter tones and coffees and the cherries or whatever. So, it's all about flavor. It depends on what mood you're in. So, but building recipes, it depends on what you're thinking and what you're going for. So, yes, we do start with a cocktail in mind or a wine in mind, or I don't know when this is aired, but I was literally supposed to brew a peanut butter banana porter today, and I moved it back to Tuesday so I could be here with you. So
I appreciate that.
So yeah, we're crafting the peanut butter banana porter. So, sometimes we start at the finish line, and sometimes we start at the starting block on building recipes, and sometimes you work backwards, and sometimes you work forwards. Yeah. So it's it is a rhyme or reason, but we do both.
Yeah. What, as you were tasting craft beer, in those early days, what were some of those kind of pivotal beers that you just found connected with that seemed to inspire you to explore that further?
So in 2001, graduated college, moved to North Little Rock, Arkansas, and got a Diamond Bear IPA. And when I got home and tried it, I was like, sheesh, this is, what is this? So the guy was like, oh yeah, this is very hoppy. I don't know why.
2001, those are some early days, right?
No, he didn't say hoppy. He didn't use the word hoppy. He said it's very bitter. Yeah. I'm like, okay, cool. Let's try it. And I got it home. I'm like, sheesh. And so I started going back, buying other, beers, and Zingu was a thing at the time, really. So it's just trying, like I said, was seeking those flavors, and it's more to it than just, the macros. So yeah. One is really when I started becoming an enthusiast with craft beer. Yeah.
At what point did you say, hey, we should start a business around this?
Pretty early on. Just because Memphis was definitely underserved on the craft beer scene.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and then it was like, oh man.
It has been for a very long time. When in the mid 90s, when I was here, 95, I turned 21. Like Memphis Tennessee had some crazy protectionist laws. And, in order to any beer sold in the state, had to have TN printed on the cap or something crazy like that. And so you couldn't get import beer in the state. I had to drive over the Mississippi River to West Memphis, Arkansas to a Walgreens liquor store just to find import beer, craft wasn't even in the picture there. But then I guess by 96, my senior year, I was able to buy Pete's Wicked Ale, maybe some Burke Grant stuff that started getting distributed.
Get those little Mickeys, those little bottles they used to make.
Oh man, I don't remember those. But no, I remember buying a keg of Pete's Wicked Summer Ale for a party, not a kegger that we threw over on the river down near Channel 3. And I had a Pete's Wicked Summer Ale keg. And my college friends hated me for that. They hated me so much for not just buying regular beer, making them drink that weird beer. But yeah, I know what you're saying. This place has always been underserved. And while there are now more breweries, it's still nowhere near what Memphis could sustain for breweries.
Yeah. And so to your point, in college, we had a frat party, and I was like, oh, let's get Killian's Irish Red. That was, and they were like, what the F are you doing? I'm like, right. He's not in charge of the beer anymore. But,
Yeah. No, it's, yeah. But you eventually, you find people that are aligned with what you're interested in, and you kind of, move there. And of course, over the last 20 years, more and more people have moved in that same kind of direction. And I always like to think it's almost like turning friends on to that band that nobody knew back then, and now they're huge. And you can thank me now that I pointed you in this direction. Oh, yeah. And now you can say oh, I was drinking craft beer back in 1996. So, we were there back then and when. So you decided to start this brewery in Memphis and make beer for the people.
Yeah. So came up with the name. So we were chewing on several names, and I'm like, oh, once again the green light went off. Where does everyone want to go when they come to Memphis? Beale Street. When I have friends in town, we go to Beale, listen to music or whatever. So Beale Street, Untapped. So let's do it. And somebody asked me, what gives you the right to, use the name Beale Street? I'm like, well, I don't own the name, but I plan to be a good steward of the name. This is Memphis brewery. We just plan on being a good steward of the name in the city of Memphis. So here we are.
You find a brand that connects with people and that says Memphis and builds that local. It's a local idea, but it's also connected to broader ideas of the blues and that kind of connection to, the broader South. And yeah.
And it speaks to the soul and funkiness of Memphis and the fabric of Memphis is built around this awesome music scene, food scene, culinary scene. So yes, it kind of encapsulates the vibe of Memphis in, one word, Beale Street. Oh, I know Beale Street, like Bourbon Street in New Orleans. Yes.
Yeah.
Funky little town.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's certainly something that transcends, the city and the region and just has a broader consciousness around it. Well, I want to talk about how you, developed a beer program and, figured out the beers that you were going to make and that might connect with people. Before we do that, a brewery might have 99 problems, but your fruit supplier shouldn't be one. Old Orchard is already known for their quality concentrates, but they also pride themselves on consistent product and reliable supply. When brewers need assistance, Old Orchard is just an email, phone call, or even a text away. Based in Greater Grand Rapids, Michigan, better known as Beer City, USA, Old Orchard is core to the brewing community. To join their fruit family, learn more at www.oldorchard.com/brewer. Also, are you ready to brew like a pro? ProBrew has the equipment, systems, and technology to take your brewery production to the next level. Check out www.probrew.com for ProCarb inline carbonation technology, ProFill rotary filling and seaming can fillers, the Alchemator inline alcohol separation system, 7 to 50 barrel brew houses, and more. ProBrew offers the craft beer industry innovative solutions to help you brew like a pro. Go to www.probrew.com for more info. So you decide to start a beer brand from Memphis. Obviously there's a few other breweries in town. I mean, when I was here in the mid-90s, it was Bosco's. Bosco's Brew Pub was the only place to find fresh brewed beer in Memphis. And it wasn't that great. If I'm from being totally honest, it was 90s brew pub style where like they had one yeast and every beer tasted the same because no matter what color it was or what malt they put into it, because they hadn't figured out yeast management and so it just it was what it was.
Typical brew pub with a house yeast, house strain.
Exactly. Like it was not unusual in that 90s kind of strain. Obviously they're far better at that now than they were then.
Oh, yeah.
But I think everyone has kind of followed that arc and think that is one of the benefits of the kind of industry collaboration that has happened over the last several decades. Brewers together figured out how to help everybody get better. And if everybody gets better, then the entire product category, the whole world of craft beer is more compelling to consumers in general. And, and now here we are. That was a cool thing. And so I don't, mean it judgmentally against those folks. It is just evidence that. So you start Beale Street Brewing.
So yeah, shout out to Bosco's. They're still hanging on, not hanging on, but they're still here rocking and rolling. Brewing some good beer. So yeah, we don't want to neg them in any way. But
I am not
humble beginnings. But yeah, they're still here.
And I see that we see that over and over again with all sorts of breweries. Like just because you start someplace doesn't mean that's where you are now. People grow, people improve, people get better at what they do. They learn. The 90s, like you had some time to learn. Now the learning has to happen a little bit faster because the competition is so much tougher. But yeah, to be able to survive for that amount of time means they're doing something right, and they are definitely better.
Oh yeah,
a great brewery now, and even if they started back then in that way. So I don't mean to diss them like that.
No, I understand.
Yeah. So you decide to start making some beers and, talk to me about that kind of process.
So, like I said, we jumped in, started, I think pale ale, like a pale ale or something was the first beer. And then we immediately went to a porter. Oh, let's throw some peanut butter in, peanut butter pecan. And then it was like, oh, call it No Nuts, No Glory, So it was immediately went fun with the names and stuff.
Sure.
I ordered some sour yeast from Barrett Tillman, Black Man Brew out of Dallas. He's an awesome brewer. Ordered some yeast from him, made some sour yeast. So we made sours right off the bat, muscadine, dried fig sours, tart cherry, and Granny Smith apple sour. I'm not going to tell you the name of those, but but yeah, so we just immediately jumped into playing with flavors and manipulating flavors. So yeah, on the commercial side, kind of brewed what we like, what we think people would like. So our 2 initial releases were a hazy IPA, low IBUs, and then a double IPA, more of a West Coast style. It's kind of a clean beer. Use some honey malt, so it's a little sweetness on the back end. It's a little more IBUs.
Honey malt, that's a classic approach.
Yeah. I love honey malt, so yes. 100% Centennial hop, classic piney, resiny. So those are the 2 beers that we launched the brand with, and people seem to be receptive to them. So here we are.
I love the idea of using something like a hazy IPA as an entree for, people that may not consider themselves craft beer drinkers. That, was that a conscious decision?
Yes, absolutely. Wanted to do more than just a regular golden ales to start, just to show that, they're really gonna, brew good beers versus just a light beer golden ale or, wheat ale. But
it's funny you say that, because I think that is there's that assumption that if you want to make a beer that's going to appeal to more people, that you should dumb it down, that you should go simple. And in some cases that's true, but I can also see the value from a brewery perspective in like staking a flavor claim and saying, that if there's not anything that sets you apart, then why would people even make the choice for your beer? And so by, pushing something that's flavorful, you want to also build a little bit of love. Like if people don't love what you do, then they're not going to pay the premium that you're going to need them to pay to go, choose yours off the shelf. And it's hard to fall in love with something like a golden ale. You might like drinking it, but you're not going to love it.
Oh yeah. So yeah, we definitely went heavy on the dry hop side. We dry hop the hell out of it. So yeah, it's a good beer. Use some good hops with it. Citra, Mosaic, and Galaxy. So yeah, it's almost like the cheat code, but those are some.
Sure.
If
the hops easy button, right?
Yeah, if you use it right, use them right there. Pretty good.
As you were kind of formulating a base recipe for this hazy IPA, where'd you start?
Started with 2-row. Added a little.
Are there any particular 2-rows that you find compelling?
So we limited to what Lazy Mag doing. Shout out to Lazy Mag and the team down there. They're doing an awesome job of taking care of our beers. They let me come down and get in the way and ask a million questions and oversee the process and what we're doing. I'm burning the road up, all day. So it's totally different coming from
burning the road up all day, going back and forth.
Yes, putting more miles on my vehicles than I'd like.
Sure.
But I get to listen to you when I'm on the road, so it's all good. So it's all good. So on the home brew, it's totally different. You can you get these malt ordermen and crystal wiremen, and just play with them. But we haven't been really selective on the commercial scale of who we utilize for malts. But
they're brewing enough that they've got it coming into a silo, and and that's yeah. So you start with 2-row, and then where do you go from there?
Of course, we start with 2-row and a ton of flaked oats, and
what's a ton of flaked oats?
A couple 100 pounds of flaked oats and carrot pills for head retention, some little complexity, and a little white wheat.
Yeah. What in terms of those kinds of specialty grains, is there a reason that you chose some of those?
No, well, with a hazy IPA, the grains play in the background, right. and the hops is what you want to shine in those beers. So it's a subtle grain build, no toasted malts or anything in that. So it's just a simple grain build, and let the hops shine in those beers.
In terms of the kind of mashed strategy, is there and then feeding into fermentation and finishing gravity, what's that finishing gravity goal, and are there any special considerations along as you mash to achieve those?
So we start fermentation is 68, and the final gravity is ending up around 6.5.
Yeah. So kind of sweet enough to to push and sell the fruity character, of those hops. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the hops that you use. You mentioned you're using your cheater hops.
Yeah.
How do you evaluate those and think about blending hops?
And also we use imperial juice, so a good yeast strain with there to give it some more esters and notes too.
Yeah.
So on the hop side, we use, as I mentioned, a Citra, Mosaic, and Galaxy, which those are 3 hops that can stand alone, but they play well together and make nice music. So just a hop that I fell in love with. It, of course, Citra is the backbone of a lot of beers and the standard in the industry. Mosaic is a super awesome hop that is awesome by itself. And Galaxy, use that sparingly just because of the price point, but
sure,
it's super fruity as well. So yeah, we wanted to capture a lot of notes, have some complexity in it, and I think we achieved that with that beer.
Yeah. Now, do you tag on to Lazy Magnolia and their hops, or do you order your own hops in and do your own kind of evaluation on that?
No, we order our own hops, yeast, cans, labels, designs.
Sure.
We order everything except the grains.
Yeah. What is as you are evaluating hops? Now you're still a small brewery, and so you're still buying spot, I assume.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. As you guys open those bags, how do you think about those kinds of things? And what's your process? You've come from that cooking background, as you checking the ingredients before you cook with them, and as you mentioned earlier, the quality matters to you.
For sure. So, we try to buy the we can't pick a lot. So we buy the newest, year and, rub them, finger test, rub them with your fingers and
sure.
So, luckily we haven't, knock on wood, we haven't had a bad batch of hops, I say, but we've utilized Crosby for Centennial, Willamette Valley for a lot of hops, and Michigan Hop Alliance. So
sure,
yeah, we're kind of, I say, all over the place, but yeah, we try to figure out what we like and who hops. So you order hops and you keep going back to what you like. So that's kind of our process. So Crosby, they take care of the crops and they have an awesome Centennial. So that's kind of our process.
Yeah, no, really good folks out there. Then, so you mentioned as you go through fermentation, well, I should say, as you're using hops, how do those tend to find themselves, between hot side and cold side?
So, we're using incognito on the hot side, on the Whirlpool only.
Okay.
Loving incognito.
Yeah. What do you like about it?
You get more yield on it,
Sure.
It leaves out that grassiness that some on the hot boil can, add to the beers. Yeah, just a clean hop profile on the hot side.
Yeah.
And then on the cold side.
Are you pushing later editions or Whirlpool editions?
Just straight Whirlpool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then on the
how do the hops tend to, how do you balance that between Whirlpool and cold side?
So
percentage kind of breakout.
Yeah, so we only use 1 pound per barrel, 1.5 pounds per barrel on the hot side in the Whirlpool. And then on the cold side, we use 3 pounds per barrel. Mosaic and Galaxy.
You're loading that up.
Yes.
Oof. Those are some expensive beers to make. Well, let's talk about that cold side, especially, with hazy IPA, biotransformation is a big buzzword. How do you, what's that schedule look like? Do you finish fermentation and then dry?
Post-fermentation for sure.
Okay. Okay. Why, why do it that way?
For one, I just think, let the yeast play, and finish their job, but that's just how we've done it,
Sure.
So, just let it sit there and let the yeast flocculate out and dump hops in there and let the hops just do the job.
Yeah.
Close near in the fermentation. That's just the way we've done it. And I guess we'll visit some other things, but that's just how it is.
With your yeast choice of imperial juice, why make that yeast choice? There's all sorts of these lineages of these yeasts move in different kinds of ways. Why that imperial juice?
It's what I use in home brewing. It's what I got samples of, and I liked it. And of course, we got samples of white yeast and
was it back when they shipped it out in cans? Was it
the Imperial?
Yeah.
No, this was in bags. Okay. The little small packets. So we brewed with it once and took to it. So
found what you liked.
Yeah. So if it's not if it's not broke, don't fix it. So we stuck with that and crafted the recipes around it. It treats the beer well. So it
Are there any, in terms of the details about how you use it, anything that you've discovered through brewing with it that, in terms of temperature range and, in terms of, other kinds of, fermentation concerns, pressure, time, et cetera, that you find give it the right expression for you?
No. So we get it and grow it up. But as far as once, we add the wort to it, it's been consistency to, from the start.
Yeah.
Like I say, we're in somebody else's commercial kitchen brewing beer.
Sure.
So we don't have the luxury of really playing with that and say, hey, try this time, So we just kind of keep constant with that aspect of it, but we do change some of the other aspects of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's talk about some of the other beers you brew and some of the, kind of approaches you take, because obviously, you are thinking about this in terms of flavor and in terms of making beer for people who may not be typical craft beer consumers, trying to make that kind of connection to them. Flavor is an important touchstone for that. Before we do that, hey, nano brewers, Fermentis, the obvious choice for beverage fermentation, is soon offering their dry ale and lager yeasts in flexible 100-gram packaging. To learn more about how Fermentis can improve the quality of your fermentation and for the latest on their exciting new product releases, visit fermentis.com. Also, as a brewery owner, you know how important it is to keep your machines running so you don't have to deal with the hassle caused by contamination, recalls, and downtime. Clarion makes food-grade lubricants to protect your equipment from the wear and tear that results in breakdowns that cut into your bottom line. Clarion gives you peace of mind so you can focus on what you do best, pouring great tasting beverages. Learn more at clarionlubricants.com. So yeah, Kelvin, let's talk about something that's not hazy IPA now.
For sure. We did a rosé ale. We called it 528 Hertz of Love and Happiness, celebrating Al Green. And we dialed it in with cranberry, hibiscus flower, white grape, and strawberry, raspberry. And it turned out pretty good, pretty tasty.
There's an acidic component to this. Like, this is, so this is a kind of a quick soured beer.
So no, we actually used a wild yeast strain.
Wild yeast strain.
We used A20, Citrus A20, Imperial yeast. It has a wild Saccharomyces strain to give it that little tartness, funky note to it, almost, to play on the wine side.
How do you, how do you, as you're constructing something like this in your mind, creating a recipe for it, with that many disparate kind of elements from acidity to, 4 or 5 different fruits, everything, and then malt, of course, component on top of that. Talk to me through that process. How do you figure out how much of each to use, and and then figure out how the fruit acidity plays against the kind of fermentation acidity?
So once again, the malt is, plays the background in this one for sure. And you want the fruits to shine, fruits and the tea leaves to shine in this one. And the yeast did exactly what we wanted it to do, create that little acidity, as you mentioned off the bat, similar to wine or, ale, rosé ale, wine, to get that little tartness. So on dialing in, of course, going from, homebrew side to commercial side, you just layer it in until you get that right mix of what you want.
So what you were saying, your process, you'll dose a little bit of something, and then dose a little bit of something else, and then dose a little bit more, and then dose a little bit more, and kind of start building up. And then if it needs something of each one of those, you'll bump it up a little bit more.
So just like salt, you can add, but you can't take it away. So you slowly dial it in until you get like that, it's good to go.
And then I imagine after you've figured that out on the first batch and kind of figured it, then you can duplicate that in future batches.
Absolutely. Copy, paste, repeat,
How do you go about selecting things like a tea, to use in a beer?
Playing,
Yeah.
Once again, I love teas, straight no chaser, so I can taste the notes and the teas and the leaves and everything in the teas. So it's just playing with it and putting it in beer and letting it do what it do, just manipulating flavors. And sometimes, a lot of times it doesn't taste right. You pour it out, but sometimes you will hit some, that could work, So then you build upon what can work.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you've also, you've got a cocktail approach now also to beer. Actually, before we talk about that, I'm curious about this yeast, that is Saccharomyces based, but acidity creating yeast. Was this beer the first time you started using that?
Yes. On the commercial side, that's the only beer we've used with that. And it creates a lot of fruity esters, which that plays well with a rosé, which is super fruity. So, I like the way it turned out.
Yeah. Yeah. Are there any special concerns in fermentation, as you use it?
No, it wouldn't boil over, so, and then we dry hopped it with Equinox.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, to, add a little complexity with the hop size. So it's love and hoppiness. So we had to dry hop it just a little bit.
Sure.
So, yeah. Like I say, it turned out pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah. So you got another beer here, the Memphis Mule, that with some ginger and lime, but peppermint. Talk to me about, building, because that's an interesting kind of mix. And certainly as you start adding mint into a beer with other things, the potential for it going off the rails is right there.
Oh yeah. We just used the Scotia mint. Born Under a Bad Sign is celebrating Albert King, his first album release on Stax Records. And it was also our 1 year anniversary. Since we're born in 2020. So yeah, it worked out perfect. And the mule is a testament of strength. You need a mule in the herd to protect everybody else, So it was it's a stubborn beer, but I think I'm a fan of the way we dialed it in.
Did it fight with you? I'm gonna hit the Stax Museum of Soul later on this afternoon. Just because I'm here. It did not exist last time I was here in town. And so super excited about that. But talk to me about formulating, this kind of cocktail inspired beer and how you went about, to building this up.
Okay. Well, to go back to Stax Records, we did a Memphis All Day Every Day IPA celebrating Isaac Hayes with his Cadillac Eldorado.
Nice.
On the label design. And we use Eldorado hops in it.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. I back in the 90s when I was here, I went down to Club 661, was a music venue down here in Memphis, and I went to see Public Enemy.
616.
616.
Yes. 616.
616. I went and saw Public Enemy, and it was amazing. Like, just an amazing show. And I remember Isaac Hayes came out on stage during that show, and it was like everyone just lost it. Yeah.
I've seen Ludacris. I saw Ludacris in 1999 in that venue.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, I've been in there as well.
So, but let's talk about, again, constructing this beer. As you think about, you come at it from this beer with that idea of building a cocktail inspired beer, but also adding your own twist to it to make it a Memphis Mule and not a Moscow Mule. Talk to me about that creative process and how you went about evaluating ingredients, the varying components and getting it dialed to where you wanted it to be.
Sure. We used dried lemon peels on the hot side. And then on the cold side, we use, of course, ginger and lime puree. Also, like I say, we just use the Scotia mint leaves to just give it a little of that mint nose. What do you think?
It tastes like a Memphis mule.
Is that a good thing or bad thing?
Are there any other, would you decide to build a base from? Obviously with this, the ingredients and the flavors that people expect out of it need to be there, and you don't necessarily want that malt to overshadow that, but it's also, got some, it is not a see-through beer. It's got some,
haze to it,
some haze and some tooth to it.
Yeah, it's essentially a pale ale that we didn't filter or sock filter or anything. We just let it shine. No, I take that back. We did sock filter it. Sure, yes, we did. We did sock filter it just because we didn't want we had to filter out the mint leaves. So yes, it's a clean beer, but it's still hazy for sure. We use oats in the mash.
Yeah. Why? Just to soften the overall thing and make it a little bit, give it round off some of those edges.
Yeah, of course we didn't go crazy with it, but yeah, we definitely put some oats in there just to, like you say, soften it up to make it, soften it up for sure.
Yeah. Did anything about building this beer frustrate you through the process?
No, that's the fun part to me, So yeah, that's the fun part, just dialing it in. Like I say, you can add, but you can't take away. So you slowly dial in and, try, keep trying till you
sure
get it to where you want it.
As I look through this kind of, catalog of beers that you are making, I see over and over again ways of connecting with people in a community, from building a hazy IPA like Space Age Sippin' that references some popular Memphis rappers, to sensational IPA for Penny Hardaway, who came here, played at University of Memphis before he played for the Magic and other folks, and building these, and of course this Memphis Mule, as you mentioned, the Isaac Hayes beer, the Al Green beers, like they're an attempt to build a connection, to this kind of musical legacy, history, sports history, everything that Memphis is known for. Talk to me a little bit about how you've thought about making, like connecting beer to people and other things that people have an affinity for.
So our whole premise is celebrating the Memphis community through the love of craft beer. And so that's our focal point. That's what we think about every day, sharing soft stories of Memphis with the world through the love of craft beer. And so far, I think we've done an okay job. We could do better. So yeah, we're still, focusing on Memphis and being intentional about the label designs, can art, and the liquid inside it to create some liquid art. So and celebrate Memphis and make Memphians and people proud for sure.
There's also a challenge in doing this because there's certainly rights involved. There are relationships, you can't use some things. And then some people, even if you do like skirt that line of what you can do, doesn't always rub people the right way. How do you navigate some of those challenges, making sure that you're doing right by the folks that you're referencing through these things?
Great question. So we definitely reach out to everybody that we air quote celebrate on labels and make them aware, or share with them what we like to do. If they say no, let's not do that, so we won't do it. But we get
so you check those things through all the folks before you do them.
Yeah, we check the boxes. A-Ball and JG partnership. They've been a great team. Super awesome guys. Isaac Hayes' daughter, Veronica, gave us permission to go in Stax Museum and take a drone, do some filming and all that good stuff. So it's been pretty cool. We did Hypnotizing Minds, where I reached out to DJ Paul, talked to Penny about it. So yeah, we are intentional about reaching out to people and saying, hey, we'd love to celebrate you on label design. Just had a meeting with somebody Tuesday about doing something first of the year with them. So yeah, we definitely want to make people aware and make sure we celebrate them in the right way. So yeah, we're just not doing beers and not, ignoring the people. Like I say, it's a collaboration and a celebration. So we want to be intentional about reaching out to those people that we celebrate on can art.
It seems like a fair and a human way to do this, especially in an environment now in craft beer where it seems like there's no amount of intellectual property theft that some breweries won't engage in. But certainly when you're talking about people, likenesses, and their creative product that you might be referencing, whether it's their music or songs, like, other creative people also, want to protect and support the legacy of what they've made, and they may not want somebody just referencing that,
for sure.
And get, but rather than getting into legal trouble. At the same time, I think there's that flip side, which I think is interesting for you, where some of these folks also love Memphis and they love the idea of a local brewery also celebrating these parts of Memphis. And somebody that is, especially coming up, from that Black community and making these things.
Oh yeah. So, like I say, we're intentional about reaching out and sharing what we're doing, just so we won't, the term, what is it? Culture vultures. So we don't want to be a vulture to the culture. We want to be a part of it, of the culture as well. So, like I said, we're intentional. We loop people in on what we're doing and, try to share and get their approval or whatever. So if they don't like it, we won't do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Where do the ideas come from?
Memphis. Memphis. I'm like I say, space age sipping out.
You just sit around and drink beer and think about, oh man, we should totally do this.
Oh yeah.
And then you just keep a running list and then, reach out to folks and
for sure.
Things hit and then they make them and then, yeah.
So yeah, I'm a huge music fan. Been a fan of 8 Ball, MJG, growing up, and it was awesome to work with some guys that you admired or loved their music for so long and turn into a business relationship. So that was pretty cool. And like I say, it comes from the music I grew up listening to, and still do. So it's easy.
There's a little bit of hip hop and beer connection, obviously, now going on. It's cool to see that from Run the Jewels, which have definitely been pushing. I mean, they've got a whole beer collaboration office and everything else going. But Nappy Roots, it's bubbling up there. It's happening.
Those are my guys down in Atlantucky for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it's here. Hip hop is here to stay. People thought it was going away years ago, but hip hop is part of the culture at large, and why not celebrate it through craft beer? So
yeah, and I love that. Yeah, again, your approach spans the blues and hip hop and this kind of Memphis music.
I listen to it all for sure.
Yeah. So let's zoom out a little bit. Right now you're contract brewing down in Lazy Magnolia, Mississippi. You've been building a brand. You've got, multiple, we can call them SKUs. I just hate calling beers SKUs because it seems to depersonalize them. You've got these different beer brands that you've developed that you're brewing down there, that you're moving out of the Memphis market. Is it primarily Memphis focused at this point then?
Yes, we're only distributed in Memphis and Shelby County proper.
Yeah.
So we've had conversations with other distributors out of state and different areas, but right now we're just tending to the Memphis market.
Yeah. What's the next step for you?
We're working on a physical location. We've been looking at buildings. We started looking at buildings in 2019. And
2020 got weird,
Yeah,
something happened in the world and all of a sudden
got really weird. So here we are. We want to get beer on. So the building search took longer than we initially thought. And then, of course, with the build out process, as it's another timeline. So we want to get beer on the shelf just to build a brand and grow brand awareness.
Sure.
Here we are. We achieved that goal. So now we're back looking at some commercial real estate, some buildings to bring the brewing in, to our backyard and have a tap room where people can come sit at the bar and we can tell our story in person.
Sure. Do you have investors that are invested in this brewery that are funding this?
Well, I've been bootstrapping it. Yes, the investor is me.
Oh man.
So so far, but yeah, we do have investors and commitments for sure. So yeah, it's gonna take more than my little thin pockets to make this thing a reality for sure.
Sure. I mean, that seems to be the hardest problem that everybody faces is how to pay for this. And, yeah. So, but in an expansion and building physical location means a whole different budget.
For sure. So, we achieved that a hurdle by getting the brand on shelf and building the brand with some products so investors can see what the brand is and get a feel for it and the mission and the goal and how we operate, how we want to operate. So it's a lot easier to sell at this point with investors and banks and everybody. So it's coming. That's all it is. It's coming.
And this is it's a normal process. I've talked to other folks that are primarily contract brewing in the past here on the podcast, and some of whom who followed up. And I mean, everyone's looking through that. Like, how do we raise capital? How do we, take these next steps that we need to take? And there's a whole bunch, you can do it through debt, you can do it through investment, a whole bunch of different ways. For you though, with Beale Street, like, what's the goal? What's the big picture goal? What does success look like for you and Beale Street Brewing? And how will you know when you achieved it?
Success looks like today. Success can definitely change over time. So sure. Today is getting our own brew house, tap room where we can, like I say, control our beer output and have more labels, SKUs that you don't want to call them. So yeah, and I guess, you can
move your experimentation from your homebrew setup off to an actual little pilot brewery.
Oh yeah. So, we have a couple projects that we want to do, along with, an initial brewery tap room. So we want to, distribute our product or share our beers outside of Shelby County at some point for sure. What does that reach look like? The simple answer is, I don't know. But, at some point, we definitely want to get outside of Shelby County and share our product to the world, So people seem to be receptive of our product, so we want to share it with them.
Yeah. Is there, if there's one musician that you haven't worked with yet that you could work with, who would it be?
I'm not going to pigeonhole myself. Definitely won't pigeonhole myself to say one. So, no, Memphis has a lot of awesome artists we want to celebrate. We got some things in the works. We're celebrating some artists. So, I can't pigeonhole myself and say one.
Fair enough.
So the short answer is we've already done it with 8 Ball MJG with Space 8 Sipping. Like I say, I am a huge fan. And that was an awesome collaboration. And Birdcap brought that project to life with the label design. So it's been an amazing product so far.
That's awesome.
And people seem to like the liquid. So lived up to the legends themselves.
Yeah. No, that's cool. I mean, and that's the pressure when you start working with other people and putting their name on it. They want it to be good too.
Oh, like, absolutely.
If it sucked, then that wouldn't last for very long.
Not at all. So yeah, they're pleased with the project and how it came out. So everybody's happy at this point. So,
well, that's great. Well, Kelvin, thanks for joining me here on the podcast. I'm gonna get around Memphis this afternoon. I got and then I'm gonna be spending this afternoon, doing reunion stuff back at Rhodes.
So yeah, thanks for having me. I hope I live up to the hype or the hype of the program and enjoy being on here. And thanks for once again, thanks for having me.
Hey, it was fun meeting you last year in Richmond, and it's been fun to, as I tuned into your social media, kind of watch how it goes. I love Memphis, and I love the idea that you're building a beer brand for Memphis, and that it's all of Memphis and not just part of Memphis. That it's, it's a cool and important thing to connect craft beer to audiences that may not all think of themselves as craft beer drinkers, and it's an important thing for us to showcase. G&D chillers will hit 28 degrees without breaking a sweat. Sativa is ideal for aroma, whirlpool, and dry hop additions to hazy and juicy IPAs. Old Orchard prides themselves on consistent quality and reliable supply. Equip your brew house with equipment from ProBrew to brew like a pro. Nano Brewers try fermentous dry ale and lager yeasts in 100-gram packaging and make your system 100% food safe with Clarion lubricants. Of course, if you'd like to support this podcast, go to beerandbrewing.com, click on the subscribe button if you're a pro brewer. Check out the All Access Pro subscriptions. We are pushing great content out there weekly from folks like Stan Hieronymus, Kate Bernat, Ben Keane, etc. It's a great way to stay on top of all the latest things happening in the brewing industry. Kelvin, if people want to learn more about Beale Street Brewing, where do they find y'all?
We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Beale, Beale, ST Brewing Co. on Instagram, and just Beale Street Brewing on Twitter and Facebook. We hadn't started TikToking yet, but maybe at some point. And the website, BealeStreetBrewing.com. See all our beers and Instagram stuff. So website, social media, we're out there.
I subtly threw in a y'all right there because, hey, we're back in Memphis right now, and I gotta say, I'm gonna hit you up for some barbecue recommendations here in a second, because, like I said on the Alma Mater podcast that aired 2 weeks ago, Memphis is a little bit better than Kansas City when it comes to barbecue. Where it fits next to like Austin, it's a little more debatable.
It depends on what cut of meat you want.
Memphis pork and brisket in Austin. That was for sure. I'm gonna hit you up for those recs. But thanks for joining me on the podcast, Kelvin. Cheers.
Thank you. Cheers as well.
This podcast is brought to you by Craft Beer and Brewing Magazine, for those that love to make and drink great beer. Learn more online or subscribe at beerandbrewing.com, or find us on social media at Craft Beer Brew.